Hi, welcome back to Beatbox Breakdown. In today's video, we'll be going over a couple strategies on how and where to breathe. Now, breathing is something we do automatically, and it's not something we tend to think too much about on a daily basis. So, if I were to tell you to breathe manually, you'd probably react kind of like this.
How do I breathe manual?
In beatboxing and vocal percussion, breathing is a fundamental part of what we do. Without a supported breath, we would be unable to finish our phrases or beat patterns, nor would we even be able to create sounds in the first place. Because a lot of what we do is breath driven, it is important to know how and where it is best for you to take a breath in order for you to continue a beat pattern in the most organic way possible. As a vocal percussionist, the offbeats are your friend.
What's an offbeat?
Great question. In order to understand what an offbeat is, you'll need to have some understanding on what a downbeat is. A downbeat is a strong beat that gets all the emphasis, which means if you have a downbeat, then the beat that follows has to be de-emphasized. Think of it like walking. Think about it in the sense where, you have to lift your foot up gently first before you place it on the ground. In music, the offbeat is the beat that follows the prominent beat and is typically not accented. If we think about our Boots and Cats beat, to go back to our very first video, the bass falls on the downbeat of 1 and 3, and our snare falls on the downbeat of 2 and 4. Our hi-hats, however, fall in between on the offbeats. Because the offbeats are de-emphasized, they provide excellent spaces for us to breathe, hence why the offbeats are your friend. As an example, I can take a breath after a hi-hat on the end of 2. You could just breathe on that offbeat and get rid of that hi-hat sound altogether, though you might want to use that a little bit carefully just because it breaks up your flow a little bit. Now, breathing on the offbeat and getting rid of the hi-hat altogether, that is a technique that you can consider, even though it does break up the sound and the flow of your beat pattern. It might be something to keep in mind when you're doing something more technical and something more fast, though on a slower beat, it might be something that you would just not do just because it breaks up your sound. So, for example, I probably wouldn't do because now I have all of this dead space and this dead beat where nothing is happening. Although maybe you do want that dead beat and space where nothing is happening at all, just to give your listeners a little bit of a break, though again, it does break up your flow. It could be something you consider on something a little bit faster or up-tempo. This second example is somewhat of a cheat that I do personally, and the idea is built around the concept of an inward drag. Now, an inward drag is a beatboxing technique that puts emphasis on an inward breath followed by an outward drag or outward breath. However, the inward drag requires you to use the same tongue positioning as an inward K snare. Now, the inward K snare is not a concept that we have covered yet. What is an inward K snare, you may ask? Well, the inward K involves you taking your tongue to the roof of your mouth and then pulling the air quickly, making a quick snapping motion. So, for example, if this is the roof of your mouth, this is your tongue's right here, and it goes inward, sort of like this. Truth be told, I do not have the tongue flexibility for that, but this technique that I use personally is built on the principle of taking that quick inward breath without having to place your tongue on the roof of your mouth. Don't choke on air, please. Be safe. In this technique that I'm going to call a cheated inward drag, I am quickly taking in air, kind of like I'm sipping on coffee. I'm sucking the air in, giving me a short burst of air to finish my phrase or beat pattern. Notice the amount of space that's being created. Imagine those suction cups where it just takes up all the air. Essentially, this gives me a short burst of air to finish my phrase or my beat pattern, and it also kind of gives off this distorted sounding effect of a skip, or if I do it fast enough, it sounds like a reverse, like in a 90s hip-hop beat. chance to practice both of those breathing techniques. Now, I do have to preface by saying that you might not want to spend too much time practicing both techniques all at once, like in one sitting. It is like you do need air, but it is also unsafe for you to take in too much air all at once. So if you do start to feel lightheaded, I do recommend that you take a break, sit down, and drink some water before you continue on practicing. All right, so let's try this together. We're gonna start by breathing on the offbeat. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Let's try that again, but this time we're gonna slow it down. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Alright, so let's try out the cheated inward drag. So we're going to be using the space where our hi-hat would be to breathe. We're going to take that hi-hat out completely. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Let's try that again, but we're going to slow it down. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Awesome job. So again, these are just 2 of the breathing techniques that you can add to your growing arsenal of sounds, just to give you some ideas on how to breathe within a beat pattern. So again, we covered breathing on the offbeats, and we also covered using our little cheated inward drag technique to quickly suck that air in to give us a quick burst of air for us to be able to finish a beat pattern or a phrase. If you have other breathing techniques, let me know in the comments down below, and do also let me know if you have any other suggestions on other techniques or concepts that I should cover next. Thanks again for watching Beatbox Breakdown. Bye! Look over there!